Section 5. Issues facing Southeast Asian countries. Upon completing this section, you will understand the obstacles for Southeast Asian countries to achieve economic integration and some internal and external problems that Southeast Asian countries must solve in order to grow their economies. As each country in Southeast Asia may have its own problems that stem from historical or current economic conditions, the aggregate of these individual problems creates a complicated situation for nations aiming to integrate their economies to create a single market. In this section, you will learn about some of the common issues among those countries: growth issues, corruption, agriculture, and environment protection. The financial crisis of 1997 to 1998 began in Thailand and quickly spread to other Asian countries. Countries with open economies and better development, such as Thailand, the Philippines, Indonesia, and Malaysia, were seriously affected by the crisis. Take Indonesia. Its economy shrank in 1998 by 13.7%. During the year following the financial crisis, Indonesia's currency depreciated and fluctuated dramatically. Domestic prices increased dramatically while real wages fell. Many people faced serious nutrition problems in 1998 as a result of high food prices and low wages. However, other economies in this region, namely Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, and Burma, which were more self-sufficient and did not have convertible currencies in stock markets, were also affected by the crisis because of decreased investment in tourism in the region. As the impact of the crisis gradually diminished, most countries in this area showed some signs of recovery after 2000. However, ASEAN countries faced another challenge followed by the worldwide recession after the terrorist attacks in 2001 and the financial scandals in the U.S. market. Furthermore, while ASEAN countries strove to increase their exports to major trade partners, such as the U.S. and Japan, China, which was not previously an important competitor, caught up with ASEAN thanks to a strong export-oriented economy. China focused on the same markets as ASEAN and is now a strong competitor. Fortunately, China has gradually increased its exports from Southeast Asian countries, which may create another major market for local industries. Southeast Asian countries experienced an economic setback during the global financial crisis that began during the end of 2008. Comparatively, Asian countries reacted much better to the global financial crisis than they did to the Asian crisis of the 90s. Due to policy measures that were put in place after the crisis in 1997, financial support arrangements to support investor confidence allowed the Indonesian economy to be flexible. As a result, the country was able to react quickly to the drastic change in outflows of foreign capital. In order for Asian countries to protect themselves from future economic crises, it will be essential that the countries make long-term financial, fiscal, and structural adjustments. Another challenge facing Southeast Asian countries is corruption. Most countries in the region except for Singapore rank very low in terms of transparency. One contributing factor to corruption may be the backwards democratic development in many of the countries. Indonesia is among the most corrupted countries. It was ruled by an authoritarian military for over 30 years. Although reforms have been proposed, the economy of Burma also suffers under corruption as well as pervasive government controls and inefficient economic policies. Corruption reduces the transparencies in the economy, thus reducing investors' confidence, which is important to attract more foreign direct investment. One of the major economic sectors in Southeast Asia is agriculture. Agriculture is especially important to the economies in Cambodia, Laos, Burma, and Vietnam. Even in Indonesia and Thailand, there are still millions of poor workers dependent on semi-subsistence agricultural production. It is estimated that around 38% of the households in Indonesia and Thailand depend on agriculture as their main livelihood. So on one hand, foreign investment in this area has moved some metropolitan areas into modern industrial society and created a huge market for industrial employment. On the other hand, a large part of the country remains in the agricultural world. Prior to 1997, some countries in Southeast Asia had achieved significant economic success. Unfortunately, the price of this development is pollution. Industry growth created numerous factories that released tons of waste into the water and air. Moreover, primacy worsened the situation. In the megacities, motorcycles, trucks and buses, and factories are the main sources of particulate and lead pollution. Some scholars believe that the financial crisis may have had a negative impact on environmental protection as the surviving plants are unwilling to spend more to reduce emission and governments lack sufficient interest in monitoring and enforcing environmental protection laws. By now, you should be able to identify some major problems that Southeast Asian countries face and understand why it is so difficult to achieve regional integration in that area.